my name is Kristie. This is speech number 2 from the spring nursing class of 2015. And I titled my speech Managing Unit-Specific Change in the Journey to Get There. Okay. Definition of change: to make or become different, the alteration of the current state. And unit-specific change in healthcare is necessary to improve patient outcomes, but there's always risk involved. You must plan for change to be successful. And in this speech, and in this, I will be using a model for change and applying it to a particular scenario to bring change about to a unit. Okay, this is the model for change that we'll be using. There's 3 considerations for change. You have to scan your environment, reflecting, and integration. Those are the 3 parts of the model. Applying this model into the unit scenario to implement change. The target unit that I chose is actually my clinical environment, and it is the radiology department at Ocean Springs Hospital. The target population and problem is there's more needed education involving tests that contain IV contrast dye. And the reason I chose this is because diabetic patients in particular, and patients with kidney failure, they're more at risk with these tests if they don't follow proper instructions, take the test prior to their blood test prior to the CT scans and things of that nature. And then if they don't hold their metformin 48 hours after the procedure and drink plenty of fluids, that can cause permanent damage to their kidneys, and we don't want that. So I thought it was pretty important. Taking steps to implement the change using the model, like I said before, scanning your environment, reflecting, and integration. Okay. First, we're going to start with scanning the environment. You want to scan your environment to implement change, and it's basically an assessment. The leader must assess the environment. You get data from multiple sources, from your patients, from your staff, callbacks, comment cards, audits, patient outcomes, feedback from everybody. Previous experiences on the unit. What problems did they have before? First of all, patients didn't know, oh, I'm not supposed to have this test prior to this procedure, and they get to the hospital and they get canceled and they're upset. Or, oh, well, I don't know what medicines I'm taking. My caregiver puts them in a box and sets them up for me, and I'm not sure. So there's more education that needs to be implemented in this situation. Okay, the next part of the model is reflecting, and this involves discussion with the key stakeholders, such as unit managers, the charge nurse, department heads, all the important people that might need to get the ball rolling to get some action to improve. Choose quality, not quantity. When you are reflecting, you want to choose a team and team members who are going to add value to your argument and add value. You don't want anybody who has a negative attitude, and only choose members who add value and get rid of those who don't. Simple as that. Consider your past experiences. In the past, patients failed to adhere to the instructions, and the potential risk is permanent damage to their kidneys and even possibly death. So we don't want that to happen. Integrating is the last part of the model. We want to assimilate data, and it gave the example of making a business plan, so that's exactly what I did for my project. The vision is to improve patient outcomes by better educating the staff, obtaining correct patient data, and making changes in policies and procedures within the next 6 months. That's still might not be doable, but that's my plan, to get things going in the right direction in the next 6 months. And the mission is to prevent adverse patient outcomes on the unit. Any adverse patient outcomes. Okay, my objectives. Patients will have no kidney damage from IV contrast. They will have their blood test drawn as they should, and their BUN and their creatinine levels prior to their test, and they will be aware that they need those. More education and communication with the patients. They will not take their metformin at least for 48 hours prior to the test. That's to prevent kidney damage. They will drink approximately 6 to 8 glasses of water to flush that dye out of their system and out of their kidneys so it doesn't cause damage to them. And then overall improvement of staff and patient education. That's my objectives for this. Okay, the strategies for my business plan. Unit staff will collaborate with doctors' offices who order the test and contrast, and they will make sure that they're educating the patients. They're giving them printed material. They're calling them and reminding them to have these tests drawn. This is a big one in the hospital, and I think it's a great idea. The pharmacy will actually flag metformin for patients who are inpatient. And if they take metformin, they will flag it in the Pyxis system, and it will not be able to be dispensed for at least 48 hours. That will prevent any nursing errors in medication. So if the nurse says, oh, I need to give your metformin, they won't be able to get it out of the Pyxis system. And another idea I had was multimedia presentations in the patient waiting areas. Like they're sitting there waiting to go into the test. There's a multimedia presentation on the TV reminding them of not to drink enough fluids, to not take their metformin, and to do their blood tests and possible allergic reactions and things like that. We could have a multimedia presentation in the patient waiting area as well as when they're waiting for the test. So that's another way of visual to help teach patients. Staff, this is so important, and this happens at my workplace too. We need correct phone numbers, working phone numbers for patients. So when we call them back to say, how are you doing? Are you having any reactions? Did you stop taking your metformin? We can actually get in touch with the patients. Also, we can incorporate the RNAO approved models, more education into the staff education. We need to make it mandatory that they have more education on this and new ways to teach and communicate with their patients. Okay, action plan. Reach an agreement with the doctor's offices regarding the policies and blood tests, a written agreement of policy, work with the tech department and hospital heads to update the Pyxis system. Now that's going to be a big one. Have new educational material become mandatory to staff like I just talked about. Work with management to update changes made to policies and procedures within the 6 months. And that is get it in paper, make it mandatory hospital-wide. Okay. And in conclusion, in order to implement change on a unit team, leaders and staff must be aware of their surroundings. Have the right team, learn from the past so it can be used in the present, and have a plan so that the change and innovation may be successful. You have to have a plan. Okay? And I ended my presentation with a quote, we cannot become what we need by remaining what we are. And that is a quote by John C. Maxwell. Thank you very much.